What's one of the most impressive things? I mean, that's a large one. You've probably got a lot considering your years of training. But what's one of the more impressive things you remember from? I mean, first of all, I think we've kind of skipped the early days of policing, but I mean, we've got into it there anyway. But I suppose you can either introduce how you got into the policing, or I think we're leading straight into the the exciting part everyone's going into.
Well, I worked throughout my career in the Thames Valley Police, which covers Berkshire, Buckinghamshire, and Oxfordshire. I started off in Slough, which is down near the boundaries of the Met Police. I ended up in the rural Oxfordshire, and during that I did various roles. And policed lots of events in rural environments, everything from the building of the Newbury bypass with all the protest issues associated with that. In my early policing days, I spent many days and very cold nights walking around Greenham Common during the protests against the American sighting of nuclear weapons in just outside Newbury. So I spent a lot of my time one way or another in the countryside, but I ended up in the last 10 years working and training a number of police dogs, which I worked, and I have to confess that I'd spent throughout my life, I'd been training gun dogs and working gun dogs to varying levels of performance, but I kind of thought I knew a bit about dog training. By sheer numbers, I thought I knew how to train a dog. What became apparent when I came to work with police dogs was that actually I didn't really know much at all.
Is that because of the different? Obviously, when you train a gun dog, I think, in my opinion, and my experience at least, they seem to have picked it up fairly easily, even with me. And I'm not exactly a trainer. I wouldn't describe myself as a dog trainer. And with police dogs, there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more sort of nuanced training that goes into that.
Yeah, I think the thing which you have to recognise with police dogs is that first and foremost, we ask a lot of them. We ask them to do things which are going to be, in all probability, scrutinised in great depth. Now, a lot of people's own personal dogs, what they do is not scrutinised in great depth unless they compete in some form of working competition.
Is that scrutinised as in there may be consequences? As in
absolutely.
So for you, the handler, or also for the dog as well? I see.
Well, less so for the dog, although it may take an early retirement as a result of what it's done. The thing with a police dog is it has to meet a standard which has been set by the Home Office. A government department sets a standard. And if the dog reaches that standard, it receives a license. And the license is for that dog and that handler to work. The license can be withdrawn at any time, and it's generally with general purpose dogs, and they are the sort of dogs which people would think of as German Shepherds or Malinois. The Belgian Malinois are the two favoured breeds, but there's also other dogs, Spaniels, a lot of them are gun dogs. But the general purpose dogs are used for finding people, finding property that bears human scent, so that may be of relevance to a missing person or a crime scene. To find those people, those dogs are taught to find and indicate people by air scent. So people that may be some distance away, the dogs will indicate a little bit like a search dog on a rescue, but they will find that scent and then give an indication to the handler that they found somebody. And probably the most difficult things for the dogs to take on board is tracking. And tracking is this thing where the dog is taken to, by the handler, is taken to a ground scent. And a ground scent or a track, and you'll probably be familiar with it from gun dogs and terriers and whatever. Dogs will naturally follow a scent on the ground. Hounds that hunt or did hunt when it was legal will follow the scent of a fox or a deer or whatever it is.
Scent these days.
Yeah. And nowadays it's an artificial scent that is laid for them to follow. But that ability to follow a scent is innate within most dogs. Mm-hmm. And actually, for most people, they detrain their dogs from following that scent because we either discourage them or ignore them when they're doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll talk about what I do with sort of nowadays away from the police scenario. But in the policing environment, we would teach dogs to follow a scent.